There has to be some common sense.
Yes, sir. They have the car stopped in 10th and Ranch, Michael Byler.
We still don't know who pulled the trigger.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to Police Off the Cuff, Real Crime Stories. I'm your host, Bill Cannon, retired NYPD sergeant with 27 years of service. And with me today, retired NYPD detective and straight out of Brooklyn, Phil Grimaldi. How you doing today, Phil?
Pretty good, Billy, and welcome back. Welcome back to the real world.
Yeah, I mean, it is sort of a shock when you're in like paradise and you come back. And not that I don't love to live where I live, but I was literally in paradise. I could show you, some of these pictures. I showed. There's one of them, me in a boat. There's my son with two barracudas catching. It's just an incredible paradise there. Anyway, let's get back to. I'm so happy to do a show. I felt I was going to not doing a show withdrawal. Even doing the shows on my phone's not the same thing. Phil, whenever I see these inmate escapes, it really gives me pause because there's always negligence in my mind. And in this, I think there's gross negligence. And here's this woman, Vicky White, who was a 16 or 17-year correctional veteran with an over 2-year relationship with this state prison inmate who she'd actually gone to state prison to visit. And that doesn't not just pop a red flag, explode a red flag in your face. And then there's also in some of these newspaper articles, there was some clandestine telephone calls. There's no such thing as clandestine telephone calls to a prison inmate. Every single phone call is monitored and it's listed, and who called them is listed, and they can record it. So nonsense. But this is what scares me. The public is put at this great risk. This guy's a savage. This guy's 6'9", 260. He's killed before. And here he is. Is this prison guard escapes with this savage, and now they got an AR-15, a shotgun, and probably a 9mm handgun. And now, because of the lax policies of prisons, the public is put at tremendous risk.
Billy, first off, right out of the box, this is really an odd situation. I mean, a correctional officer that's sworn to protect and, is guarding inmates, apparently winds up in a relationship with this guy that's sentenced to 75 years for a murder he hasn't even gone on trial for. He's sentenced to 75 years on other things. He's awaiting trial on a murder of a 58-year-old woman that was stabbed to death. I saw conflicting reports on whether or not she actually went to visit him. I saw a report that said she traveled 2 hours to another jail to visit him. However, I did see that there was a correction on that. But here's the most important thing. The sheriff that's in charge of the investigation, Rick Singleton, says that there was a romantic relationship between the two. So if there's obviously a known fact that there's contact between an inmate and a correctional officer, that's a red flag. I mean, it clearly should have been dealt with before it got to this point. And the real scary part about this whole thing is obviously, maybe this is a woman who never found love, and this guy, coaxed her into a relationship, and he probably said all the right things to her. He's got nothing to lose, but she owns an AR-15, a shotgun, and a pistol. So there's 3 firearms at least that we know of that they could be armed with, and they're God knows where in the country. It's a really scary situation. I think the public at large has been placed in danger based on the ridiculous moves by this corrections officer. So yeah, it's very, very shocking, Billy. I agree with you on that.
Let's play a little bit of ABC News' take on this.
Federal authorities have joined the search for an Alabama murder suspect who vanished along with a female corrections officer. Tonight, there are new questions about whether that officer was involved in the escape. ABC's Elwin Lopez has the very latest.
Tonight, the nationwide manhunt in Alabama for an inmate accused of capital murder and a corrections officer. Lauderdale County Assistant Director of Corrections Vicky White and inmate Casey White, who are not related, vanished Friday. The sheriff says she told the jail around 9:30 that morning that she was escorting the inmate to court before going to see her doctor.
And I can tell you that every employee in this office is shocked that she's missing and that this has happened.
Vicky White taking Casey White by herself in a patrol car, breaking department policy, which requires 2 deputies. By late afternoon, both were missing. Her car found later that day in a parking lot at a nearby shopping center. And news tonight, the sheriff saying that day was also her last day at work, turning in retirement paperwork just 24 hours before. Authorities now saying that there was no scheduled court appearance for that inmate and no doctor's appointment for Vicky.
We're pretty well convinced that she assisted Casey White escape. Really, the question we have lingering is, did she do that willingly, or was she somehow coerced or forced to help him?
The sheriff calling the officer an exemplary worker with nearly 17 years at the department and saying that as part of her job, she frequently interacted with inmates. This all comes as a shock to the family of Connie Ridgway, the woman who Casey White confessed to killing in 2015 while serving 75 years for a crime spree.
How is that even possible for someone with his rap sheet to be able to get out that easily?
And Lindsay, the U.S. Marshal Service has taken on the case, and they are now offering up to a $10,000 reward for any information leading to the arrest of Casey White. And authorities are urging anyone who spots the 6'9" inmate to contact law enforcement. Lindsay.
Elwyn, thank you.
You know, Phil, I have a question here. And of course, I'm from the police department. I'm not a correctional officer. My question is, how does one correctional officer sign out a 6'9", 260-pound inmate? Oh yeah, I'm going to take this big savage out with me. We're going to go on a field trip. And they said she violated procedure, but how is it possible that she was able to violate procedure? Is there no boss there? Is there no stopgap to make sure someone doesn't remove a 6'9" savage who's eligible for the death penalty for his next case? Like, how is that possible? I have a hard time understanding that. And that's where I think the public really needs to say, wait, what are the procedures of this jail? And of course, they're all shocked. Oh my God, she's an exemplary. How did all of this happen? Horrendous shit. You know, 2 years, a 2-year relationship. She goes to visit him in a state prison. One of the things you have to know that if you visit someone in state prison, you have to sign a log. They take your picture. It's not like, oh, go right in. It's not like that. You have to sign in. And then if you're a correctional officer, your job should be getting notified that, hey, so-and-so who works for you just visited this guy. That would, the police department, God forbid you visited someone in a state prison without authorization. It would ring so many bells that you'd have so many cheese investigators visiting you. You wouldn't be able. You wouldn't know what to do with all the cheese.
Yeah,
you know?
yeah. I think the way that she architected I'm going to call it an escape, what she did was she was in charge, or she was with other deputies that were transporting other prisoners. So she sent 2 out. She sent the other 2 out. And then she was by herself. This is what I read. And then she decided to go by herself to take him. It was either to a court date or a psych evaluation, whatever it was. So she architected in a way that she left herself being the only person that was around to transport him. Now, obviously, she should have waited for one of the other deputies to come back, or another correctional officer to come and to aid her. Department policy or correctional officer, a correctional department policy in that area was that with someone his size, he's a high value inmate. I mean, he's not in for shoplifting. He's in for murder. He's a maximum security individual. It was that there needs to be 2 deputies present at all times during transport. So again, you're making all the points, Billy. This is really red flags all over the place. I think there's going to be heads rolling after this based on the fact that she was allowed to get this, this real career criminal, guy that's sentenced all that time in jail. And it's kind of obvious that she's now armed him. I mean, if she's got a gun and they're in the same room, wherever they are, he's got access to that firearm. So now you have an armed fugitive that's he's really got nothing to lose at this point.
Really developing over the weekend when we had a escaped inmate out of the Lauderdale County Jail, a inmate that was being taken for a mental health evaluation at a county courthouse.
Look, you could see him with those ears. He's a nut. You know, guys don't get ears like that because they're sane. You know what I mean? He looks like the nutcase that he is. You know,
he has a bit of a Manson look to him. Yeah.
County facility to the other, and the person who was responsible for that transfer, for that transportation, is Vicky White. There on the right side of your screen, said to have no relation to Casey White, despite having the same last name. That was one of the comments that came up immediately in our Facebook Live and YouTube Live comment section, people asking, is there any chance that these two are related, having the same last name of White? The last name of White, I looked it up, top 25 most common last names. You'll find it as far as the last name being White. So it's a relatively common last name is White. So no relation, according to the sheriff's office there in Northwest Alabama, but still a lot peculiar about this story. And now we have this news about this video, this surveillance video that captured them. I want to make sure that I have this right, so I'm going to read this here from my notes. They were seen leaving around 9:30 in the morning, seen leaving, of course, the county jail. The patrol car was found not too far away, and then a surveillance camera captured them at a shopping center, the Florence Square Shopping Center, or near there. That's where the patrol car was found. Never made it to the courthouse where this, again, there was supposed to be this transportation for this, this mental health evaluation. And this surveillance video that has them a couple of blocks away without the patrol car. So the big question right now, of course, is where are they? They have no idea. You just heard it there from the sheriff's press conference. They have no idea where Vicky White and Casey White are located. But of course, they are believed to be together. You have to expect them to be armed and dangerous, according to the U.S. Marshals.
Scary? You bet. You bet it's scary. And I'm just going to say something right now. And I know you and I have made some really accurate predictions in the past. This is not going to end well. All right. It's going to end with him being Swiss cheesed by the federal marshals, because he's not going to go down peacefully. And one other thing that may happen, and I know others in law enforcement may not, others that are not in law enforcement may not consider this, he may just murder her once she doesn't become convenient for him to have around anymore, because this guy's a psycho.
Well, whatever their plan was, apparently there's been calls from co-workers and stuff, just to give it up, to turn yourself in. So the first, second that she intimates that, maybe this wasn't a great idea, I'm going to turn myself in, I think her life is probably going to be in danger at that point. And again, you made the point, he may have had the plan the whole time to get rid of her. He doesn't need baggage to get away. Now, she sold her house at a very discounted amount. The market value was almost double, I believe, recently. She purchased a car recently. Now, they put out the car, and apparently they've dumped that orange. It was a orange Ford Edge, I believe. So, they're on the run. Apparently they have some money, but we know that this is not going to end well. They're either going to be captured or killed. It's just a matter of time at this point. I mean, they put out sketches to show, next to a vehicle, just how big he is, as opposed to, I think she's 5'5" and he's 6'9", so he towers over her. I mean, that's a 1.5 feet taller. So they're going to be, it's going to be a Mutt and Jeff, as we call it, Billy. And they're going to be easy to spot. Their pictures being circulated all over the place. He may change his appearance. She may change hers, but it's only going to be a matter of time. I mean, he's got that distinctive tattoo on his right arm, takes up his whole arm. It's like a sleeve tattoo.
You got to watch this video. This is the video of her getting him and bringing him to the car. Just check this out.
Yeah, very nonchalant, I would say.
Video on the screen is showing this 6'9" inch inmate, handcuffed to the front, shackled by the feet, her putting him in the left rear passenger seat, and then her nonchalantly, and when she walked him to the car, she turned her back on him. So clearly she had no concern whatsoever that he was a threat to her at all. And then she's
anytime I
pulling away.
escorted a prisoner, if I was by myself, going into central booking or whatever you would have, I would always have a hand on the prisoner, and I would kind of make the prisoner lead. I wouldn't lead the prisoner. I want him in front of me. He's behind me. He can, put his arms around my neck and choke me
Phil,
out.
I always overcompensated. If I felt the guy was a threat to me, like, one of these jailhouse jacks with 22-inch arms, I would get one or two other cops. Hey, walk this guy to the walk. I had no pride. I'm not gonna, I'm not gonna say, oh, I can handle this guy. No, this guy was just, doing 2,000 push-ups a day for 10 years. You know what I mean? So I would always err on the side of safety. And one of the things I always did in a prisoner escort, I did it by the numbers. I sat in the back with the prisoner. When cops did not do that, it drove me. Phil, as well as I do, cops were killed not doing that.
Absolutely.
They got killed because they didn't follow procedure. Folks, this is Police Off the Cuff, real crime stories. I was away, guys, for a while, and we're coming back and doing a show. I'm so happy to do a show. I missed it. I missed Philly. And Sons of Italy, I'm sure you must be a fan of Phillies. Thank you so much for the $5 super chat. I'm just saying, the problem with the case is the DBOB don't blab on blue policy. I've seen it happen so many times as a retired Fed. IA is having a field day. I'm just saying you could be 100% correct. We're going to cover all of that. Folks, if you're not subscribed to Police Off the Cuff, Real Crime Stories, please go to our YouTube, hit the subscribe button, give us a thumbs up, ring that bell. You want to support us, you can join our Patreon. We have 3 different levels. And if you want to be a member of our family, our YouTube family, go on our YouTube family. You see the folks in the green font. Hit that, join us, one of our 5 levels on YouTube. One of the things I wanted to tell you guys, I just got a notification from Facebook, and they told me they're not going to be covering my podcast anymore.
Wow.
So,
really?
yeah. So I will just now be going live on YouTube. I also put it on Anchor or on 9 listening sites. I don't know why Facebook is doing that. Facebook is a very strange company, and they're not going to be doing it. So we're going to so you folks that are on Facebook, this is why I'm telling you this. You're going to have to watch us on YouTube, which is probably better off for us anyway. But so watch us on YouTube, get used to it, and we won't have any problems. But yeah, I was just notified.
You could also get a notification as well. So if you're interested in the show, you're a fan of the show, you hit the subscribe button, you get the notification. So when we go on the air, boom, you're going to get a notification.
Yeah, and getting back to this, and the guy right here, just saying, you're right. I think sometimes you get lax. Philly and I were just talking about how with prisoner transport, sometimes on the NYPD, and especially, I hate to say it, especially detectives got lax, and they sometimes during the arrest process would get friendly with the perp. And they felt that they could trust him or something, and they let him sit in the back seat by himself. No. I never would do that, And it actually cost 2 detectives their lives on the Grand Central Parkway in the 90s. I don't know the officers' names. I don't want to disparage them, but the perp was sitting in the back. Somehow he got a hold of a gun while he was in Queens Central booking. He was somehow got into a police locker room and got a gun. And when they got him, once he was on the Grand Central Parkway, he pulled that gun and killed both of them. So I understand just saying what you are just saying. You're right. And especially, correction officers, you can understand how a correction officer could get what we call Stockholm Syndrome, in the fact that they identify with the person who is their captor, and just a horrendous situation. And look who it endangers. It so endangers the public. The only, I think, good positive that will come out of this, or that I find a positive, is the Fugitive Enforcement Division is the very best. We have the very best fugitive enforcement division in the world. They're feds. They're federal, but they usually work with locals, and
Marshals
they're amazing.
work under the
Those guys
marshals.
are amazing. They know how to find people. Trust me. Now let's talk about a little bit. Vicky White, 16.
Yeah,
She had
let's
just
talk
recently,
about her. Let's talk.
she had
about
recently lost her husband, apparently. So is that an excuse? No, but it's we can understand the human condition. She just recently lost her husband. She sold her house supposedly for half of what it was worth. If that wasn't an exploding red flag, she put up retirement papers in. She was officially retired the next day after this occurred. She bought a used car that was going to be their escape vehicle. So there were many, many red flags, and we're seeing just the obvious ones now. How about the people that worked with her? Did they see the not so obvious ones to us, but they saw them because they worked with her?
You know, Billy, I read that she's divorced. I read that she's a widower. She apparently has no children, 17-year veteran. She's got a 17-year tenure in the correction department, 4 times employee of the year, spotless record. So again, there must be a component of loneliness in there. He used deception. He gained her confidence. He told her how much he loved her, probably. Maybe she was a very lonely woman. Maybe no one ever really heartfelt told this woman that she was loved by them. And she was able to be conned into this horrible situation. And, like you said, she not only placed herself in grave danger, she put the public at large in grave danger. And it sounded to me, I saw the one of the reports from Sheriff Rick Singleton, that they think that these 3 firearms I talked about, the AR-15, the shotgun, and the pistol, that they're with her because she moved next door when she sold a house to her mother's home. And it would have been very easy to search the mother's home and see if the guns were there. So it sounds like they're pretty confident that they're armed and dangerous. Again, you brought up the Stockholm Syndrome. That's something that probably did take place over a number of hours and days and time over the 2-year period. And he convinced her to do this thing. And I mean, there's really just it's a futile attempt at escape. It's not gonna result in them living happily ever after. I think that's fables and fairy tales if you think that way. So it's just going to be a matter of time. It sounds like she was a very lonely woman and was conned into this very odd and very peculiar behavior.
Peter Rabbit, due to his size, I think he has some glandular problem in his brain, which could then be a brain disorder. That could be, Peter, thank you for your assessment, but we don't care what his problem is. It could be solved by lead, by the Fugitive Enforcement Unit. I don't care what his mental health problem is, and I don't think you do either. This guy's a danger to society, and he needs to be taken out.
He belongs in prison. That's where he was. He was sentenced to 75 years. I know it's a little confusing, but he was awaiting charges on other stuff. And bottom line is that she very knowingly let him out of that prison. She took him out of there, and she's going to have hell to pay for this.
Phil, we're going to get into that because this was very obviously planned. Michael Power, she said that he had a mental evaluation, but the appointment never existed. She made it up. Michael Power, exactly. That's what I'm saying. How was she able to take this inmate to an appointment that didn't exist and by herself? This little 5'5" correction officer taking the 6'9", 260-pound murderer to a mental health evaluation. I could give him his evaluation from here. You're nuts, all right? But ridiculous. And I'm not just trying to be funny.
You got glandular problems, and
you got glandular problems. You got big ears. Because all of these things are indicative of you being a criminal. There used to be a science, where they actually used to measure the head, and they could almost determine criminality from that. I don't think it was accepted by the scientific world as a science that they could depend on. Not like DNA or genealogy or anything like that. But there was once a science with that. But now, when you think about it, it's similar to facial recognition. Facial recognition uses certain algorithms, measures the distance between the eyes and the ears and all of that stuff, the shape of the head. Mm-hmm. So everything comes full circle in some way, I want to play a little bit of this. This is this is the family of the woman who he confessed to murdering, and he's going to be going on trial for this. And if he gets convicted of this, he is eligible for the death penalty. Wait, I'm not seeing. Oh, I got to remove this. I'm not seeing the. Hang on a second. I have to.
So he's basically already incarcerated on 75-year term from other things. Now he's going on trial for the murder, but he could be facing capital punishment. Correct, Billy?
Yes. Yeah. So it's like I got to get this one. Now. I'll share it. I'm forgetting my rustiness now. I'm forgetting to hit the volume thing, and that's my coming off vacation rustiness.
Casey White has not been seen since Friday when he was being transported for a mental health evaluation. The guard transferring him to the court broke policy by not using a second officer. Casey White and the deputy, Vicky White, no relation, have not been seen since. Casey serving 75 years for attempted murder, kidnapping, robbery, and burglary out of Limestone County. WVTM 13 has learned he tried to kill his ex-girlfriend in 2015. He also held two of her roommates hostage at gunpoint. Everyone made it out of that situation unhurt. White is also accused of killing someone else in 2015. And tonight, we're hearing from her family.
This is pretty shocking, I have to admit. But at the same time, if he doesn't happen to make it to trial, I mean, he's definitely a threat to the public.
WVTM's Maddie Davis with more from the family tonight as the search for Casey White becomes more and more desperate.
7 years ago, Austin Williams lost his mother, Connie Ridgway, after she was brutally stabbed in her home in Rogersville.
My mother, she was just such a nice person, kind of everybody's friend. This is the last person you expect anything to happen to.
For years, it was a cold case until 2020 when Casey White confessed to the crime. As White sat in the Lauderdale County Jail, Williams felt there was justice for his mother and awaited the day he would go on trial. Now that hope is gone after White escaped Friday morning.
It's shocking, and it's just like you just wonder how it's possible, because we really wanted it to go to trial just so that we could hear more of the story.
He escaped with a corrections officer, Vicky White, who hasn't been seen or heard from since.
Turn yourself in before this gets any worse. No one else needs to get hurt. You need to turn yourself in as soon as possible.
Since Vicky White had a handgun, authorities assume Casey White is armed and dangerous. Williams has a warning for everyone.
Have someone like Casey, who's 6'6", 250 pounds, come into her apartment and stab her to death. That's the kind of person this is. This is the person you need to look out for.
The Lauderdale County Sheriff's Office will hold a press conference Monday morning to update on the search for Casey White. Until he is found, Williams holds on to hope for the day his mother will finally get justice. In Birmingham, Maddie Davis,
Scary. Vet Girl, thank you for the 1999 super chat. How does a correction officer visit a correctional inmate in another prison without being vetted and noticed? Please and thank you. Vet Girl, I brought that up before. When you go visit someone in a state prison, it's not just like, hey, I'm going to visit. Yeah, you let me into this. There's a whole procedure. You got to be searched. Sure. They're going to take identification. They're going to photograph you. They may even, I don't know if they fingerprint you. I guess they probably can't fingerprint people that are visiting, but they look, no one has a right to a visitor. You know what I mean? They're convicted felons. That's why when they said, oh, she is making clandestine phone calls, there's no such thing. A convicted inmate doesn't get private phone calls. The phone calls are recorded. Everything's recorded. The phone he answers the phone at phone R22 in the southeast corner of the cell block. You know what I mean? It's recorded. Everything is known. So it's sort of ridiculous that she goes and visits him in a state prison and she works as a CO in a jail. Something's not right there.
That term by the sheriff saying it was a clandestine phone call, that sounds like CYA. He's covering his ass, because heads are going to roll based on, I'm sure there's going to be an internal investigation. Maybe a state agency will investigate, attorney general of that state and look into this. And there has to be safeguards put into place that's going to prevent this from ever happening again. There should be no way that a 6'9", 300-pound inmate is going to be escorted out of the jail, even though he's in shackles, by a 5'5" female corrections officer by herself. I mean, that's just ludicrous. And you saw the way she nonchalantly walked out of the prison with him. And, she was in front of him. He could very easily have, choked her out, taken her firearm and the keys and escaped that way. But obviously she was in on the plan. So, who knows what's going to happen when they're confronted by law enforcement, whether or not they're going to give up or if they're going to be willing to go down in a blaze of glory. Who knows what her fate is if she's safe at this point. I think that's obviously of a concern. Everyone else seems to see that. She, however, doesn't. And, she may be in grave danger. She may have already been dealt with at this point. So, he's got to worry about himself. Now he's got to worry about her as far as getting out of Dodge, so to speak. So, I think it's a real scary situation for her. She was obviously duped into this behavior, and it's just kind of shocking. And one other thing, I think it was yesterday, they issued a warrant for her arrest for permitting and aiding an escape. So, she's already been charged. There's a warrant for her arrest. It doesn't look good at this point for her. It does not look good at all.
Phil, I used to say that, how can you date a prison inmate if that's not the lowest hanging fruit, or consider a prison inmate that's facing life, considering that person for your lifetime mate? That's extremely low hanging fruit, And when I look at his picture, it reminds me of a saying I used to say: 6'9", 260. He is why guns were invented.
Oh yeah.
You know what I mean?
And when you look at the Tsarnaev brothers from the Boston bombing, the one that survived, he's getting love letters in jail. There's people out there that are trying to romanticize a convicted terrorist that's probably going to get the death penalty, but yet there's women professing their love, offering to marry him. There's some very lonely and disturbed individuals in the world, and I think this woman happened to be a corrections officer, 17-year tenure, spotless record. It's a little bit unusual what they say, but again, they're saying she has a spotless record. Is that CYA again? Are they covering their asses by saying that? We don't know that. Although there was another inmate that was in that jail that was out and made a comment saying that it was very out of character for her. I did see that in one of the news articles. So, I don't know. It's very, very strange. It's odd to think that, that she went along with this, that she's part of it. But here we have it. Those are the facts. She helped this prisoner escape.
Phil, it reminds me of the escape from Dannemora thing. It was actually, it was from Clinton Correctional Facility.
Yes.
And these two murderers escaped. And I remember Cuomo at the time was governor. And when he went to the prison, he was praising them, their escape. This is right on. If you hear him talk, I can't even imitate him anymore because I forgot what he sounds like. But
no, you were good.
This is right out of the movies, right out of television. They could have never predicted this. They could have never. And then we find out some clerk in there helped them, was delivering them tools, hacksaws, all this type of stuff, schematics. And I was like, this idiot's the governor, and he's praising these two murderers for escaping from prison. And one of them was shot dead by the state police, and the second one was shot twice by a state police sergeant. But they were both caught, but they were at large for, I don't know, maybe it was like 3 to 4 weeks.
Yeah, they were upstate New York, and I believe, if I'm not mistaken, I think one of them committed a murder. They may have broken into a home. I remember something like that. I know that they broke into a home and they took a firearm. These hunting cabins, people have these homes that they go to upstate New York. I'm not sure if that's the case, if there was a murder involved, but again, like you said, they were hunted down like dogs. They wound up shooting it out with the police. And I guess, listen, at that point, they're going back to jail probably forever. And, so they have nothing to lose. And I'm just afraid that that's what's going to be the situation in this case. I just, hope and pray that that the agents that like you said, the fugitive from the Marshal Service, the Fugitive Enforcement Division, that they get these guys, and that they could get them without anybody being harmed. Even the prisoner and the correction officer shouldn't be harmed. Hopefully they'll give up before it turns to violence.
Nancy L. Davis, sorry to say, but odds are this criminal man probably murdered the female officer just as soon as he no longer needed her, sad to say the least. Nancy L. Davis, I agree with you 100%, but right now we don't know if that has happened because they haven't been found yet. They will be found. They will be found. Trust me. One of the things you notice about criminals, they're not smart. You know what I mean? Everyone says, oh my God, they're so smart. No, they're not smart. Chance sometimes is an ally, and sometimes you're just lucky, and, I'm not saying anyone's on their side, but obviously you're so right. Once he doesn't need Miss Vicky, he's just going to dispose of her. He murder her and do whatever he has to do. Or if he thinks he can travel more quickly without her, he'll do that.
That case you were talking about from upstate, I believe there was a woman that worked in the prison that befriended them, and she helped them to escape from the jail. So, there are these cunning criminals that their life is telling lies, and their life is basically an act, but all the criminal activity they're involved in. So if you get somebody that's unsuspecting and naive, somebody, like that lonely person, like this woman seemed like she was lonely, either widowed or divorced, whatever the case may be, no children. And she fell right into the trap. And they were, this individual was able to, convince her to aid in his escape. And, we'll take off and we'll go to Mexico or whatever, and we'll live life happily ever after. But I think Nancy Davis makes a good point. There's probably a good chance that he doesn't need her. It was just a ploy to get out of the jail, and he's going to do his own thing. And I mean, I hope and pray, even though she's, criminally responsible for what she did, I hope that she doesn't get killed. But again, she's probably in grave danger.
Gerard, that Dannemora was close by. We had our guns ready. You know something, Gerard? Thank God for the Second Amendment, right? That's when a guy like this or numerous people escape from a state prison, are you going to count on Chuck Schumer to defend your family? I mean, you're going to count on Cuomo, who established gun control, the SAFE Act? No, you're going to count on Smith and Wesson.
Reform. Thank you,
Smith
Cuomo.
and Wesson, Glock, Winchester. That's who you're going to depend on, to defend you and your family. I mean, look at this guy. You almost need an elephant gun to take that guy down, Phil, let's talk about, she's had over a 2-year relationship with this guy. Let's talk about possibilities, the plan. What was the plan to escape? What is it's near Alabama. They're near a body of water. Could they have jumped on a freighter, to get out of the damn country? Could they have?
I'm sure that's possible. Listen, it does sound like there was a pretty extensive plan, because she sold her piece of property under market value, probably to attain cash, because she must know that if you use credit cards, they're very traceable. She may have purchased a burner phone. We don't know about that. I'm sure that her cell phone, if she went so far as to sell her home and to purchase another car, I doubt she's going to use her current cell phone, although you never know. What vehicle are they traveling in? We know that they recovered the orange Ford Edge. What vehicle did they transfer into? That's another question that needs to be answered. And again, if there is cell phone tracking capability, if she has a burner phone, there is ways to track burner phones. I don't want to go too deep into that. I don't want to expose too much in the investigative side of things. But if she did purchase some burner phones, there is ways to track those, even though everybody thinks that they're untraceable. So I don't think that I think the major thing to capture these two is going to be the media. They're plastering their picture all over the place, social media, cable news, network news, newspapers, whatever it may be. Put their pictures out as much as possible, describe them. And I'm sure the marshals are going to be on their trail, and that vehicle that was recovered. There may be some evidence left behind. Maybe
Phil, you know,
evidence
I know they recovered the sheriff's car. You sure they recovered that red vehicle that she had
I watched an article from earlier today, and it said that the sheriff was a little disturbed the fact that the vehicle information had been given out, and now that vehicle was found, it was recovered, and you know, they're probably in another vehicle. So what evidence was in that vehicle? You know, I was going to say perhaps there could be traces of hair dye to change their appearance, clothing changes, you know, maybe I don't know what his hair length. I mean, it didn't look like it was real long. It was pretty short. It was close crop. Maybe she cut her hair or dyed her hair. So those are the things that are going to be, yeah, they're going to want to change their appearance. That's going to be pretty easy to, you know, to come to that conclusion. So again, she's got long blonde hair. Maybe she dyes it. Maybe she cuts it and dyes it. She's going to change her appearance, I'm sure. He has that facial hair. Maybe he's going to shave that off. And when she walked him out of the jail, it did look like his hair was pretty close cropped. So I don't know if he could do anything with that. But
yeah, but you know, you can't fix ugly.
Yeah,
and he's ugly. You know,
there's a good point there. And look, you look at his picture, his mugshot there. He does look like a very deranged individual. I mean, I know you can't judge a book by its cover, but if you look at Charles Manson, you look at any serial killer, and you look at this guy, you could see the evil in his eyes. And you know, it's unfortunate for her that she didn't see it. So. Listen, it's going to play out. I'm sure that they're hot on
Phil,
it.
as I said, he's the reason that guns were invented, you know, because he's a dangerous guy. One of the things that I would look at as an investigator, I want to be all over her computer at home and her computer at work. I want to be all over her bank records. I want to see how much they have to be relying on cash because, you know, obviously once you use a card, it can be tracked as to where you used it. So she must have removed a lot of money in cash. You know, I want to look at her whole history. Does her family own property anywhere else? Where are her relatives? Where are this moron's relatives? You know, all of those things, because when people go on the run, they start looking for friends. And look, this guy's been in prison. Maybe he also has some prison friends that he can call. You're right. Burner phones are important because that's the only way they can communicate, or else law enforcement will be all over them. Trust me, law enforcement is going to catch these two. And again, it's not going to be a happy ending. It's going to be a very sad ending. And unfortunately, I think it's going to be very sad for Miss Vicky first. Because I think he's going to kill her.
After 9/11, post 9/11, Billy, a lot of hotels, almost all, I'm sure maybe some of the smaller Fleabag type hotels may not follow this policy. But if you check into a hotel, you're supposed to provide a credit card and a driver's license or some type of identification, even if you're going to pay cash. They want to know who it is that's checking in. And, you know, of course, terrorists might follow that, you know, same trick to try and, well, I'll pay cash for the room and stuff like that. So even with a lot of cash, she needs some kind of identification if they're going to jump from hotel to hotel. I don't know if that's the case. Maybe they're sleeping in a car or some type of a van or something like that. I don't know if they have familiarity with, you know, the great outdoors, if they're doing that type of stuff, camping. But again, you're not going to be able to go into a Comfort Inn or a Best Western or whatever it is.
She can go to a Motel 6. Just we'll keep the light on for you.
You need, the point is, you need an identification and you need a credit card. Even if you could put up $500, they still want that card to match the person that is registering. You know, so that's really something that Homeland Security came down with after 9/11. So again,
love wins. I love your comment. Convicted murderer, psychopathic, ultra high level, distorted, narcissistic miscreant. Wow. Glad I went to college to read all those big words. Manipulated female guard's weakness, disjointed divorce, vulnerable mental health.
That's a good summation, I would say, Bill, wouldn't you?
Love wins. I think I love your comment. Unfortunately, I don't care about any of those things. She's a sworn officer. She's not supposed to fall for this shit. And she just put herself, just destroyed her life. Just totally
absolutely.
Destroyed her. Someone else just put up there that her house was worth $200,000 and she sold it for $95,000.
Yeah.
You know, like, is this guy, what does this guy have that she would do that? I mean, He's a prisoner. He's an inmate. He's a criminal. He's, it's just like, when, as I said before, sometimes I'm trying to be funny. Right now, I'm not trying to be funny. He is the definition of low hanging fruit. You don't get any more low hanging than this guy,
Absolutely, Billy. And again, what was her personality like? She may have been mentally abused in previous relationships. She could have had very low self-esteem. This guy put her up on a pedestal, told her how beautiful she was, how the world was really not fair, that she, didn't have a man in her life or a lover. And again, you can see how someone that's vulnerable could be talked into a situation like that. I'm not saying it's easily talked into helping a convicted felon, 75 years, a high security inmate to escape from jail. I mean, there's a lot of convincing has to go behind that, but you could see how a person could fall into that type of relationship. But then to go to the point where now you're going to cross the line, you're going to break the law, you're going to aid in an escape, you're going to provide transportation for a convicted felon to escape from a jail. That's really, really crossing the line.
Alicia McKay, Vicky was also a widow. She lost her husband. Is that January 2011? I can't just put January 2001. I don't know what date that's supposed to be. I understand all of that. I understand the human condition, but you also have to understand what she did to her life by doing this. Jimmy Calandra is in the chat. Bill and Phil, I hope all is well with you both. Respect and love. Jimmy, same right back. Jimmy, thank you so much. Great to see you. You guys haven't seen Jimmy Calandra's show, Beth Avenue Kids, right? Beth Avenue Boys.
Beth Avenue Story.
Beth Avenue Story. I keep saying boys, kids. It's like it's like the West Side Kids or whatever it was.
Well,
anyway,
he did say Bath Avenue Crew. He had it a little different, but you see right there, Jimmy Calandra, a Bath Avenue Story. He's got a very popular podcast. His audience is growing and very interesting stuff.
Guys, that's what I was going to say. If you haven't checked him out, check him out. He's a good friend of ours, and he's helped us out a lot. And we help. He's one of the people we will recommend to cross pollinate. That's for sure. Good guy.
Absolutely.
Folks, thank you so much. I didn't know if we would get this many people in the chat. This is obviously a trending case. I have a lot of interest in this. This is the first show we've done in like a week. If you guys were watching, I've been in Florida. I was in Isla Morada with my kids, and we had a great time. But Bill,
I saw a comment in there. I just wanted to make a quick comment. I saw a comment, and it said, if he commits a murder during the escape, could she be charged with murder? And the answer is yes. If she's part of there's a thing called felony murder. If you're
acting in concert, absolutely.
Yeah, acting in concert. So if she's with him and he commits a murder, she could be charged with the murder as well. And she's going to have a long prison stay if she is found alive and arrested.
It's the whole thing with it's almost like what's known as facilitation. If you can facilitate someone else and help them doing a crime, you're just as guilty as the person that committed. We're going to take a quick commercial break. We'll be right back. This is a fascinating case.
Joe Murray, attorney at law. Have you found yourself in a jam? Are you in need of legal counsel in the New York area? Do you need a victim's advocate? Well, Joe Murray is your man. He's not only an experienced trial attorney, he's also a retired 15-year member of the NYPD. He literally knows both sides of the fence. His website is jmurray-law.com. His telephone number is 646-838-1702, or you could email Joe at jmurray-law.com.
John Beatty Law, www.jbeattylaw.com. John Beatty is a renowned personal injury attorney. He's also retired as a decorated NYPD sergeant. For over 15 years, John has litigated some of the largest accident and malpractice cases and verdict settlements in the country. John comes from a proud NYPD and FDNY family. He was an active sergeant in Brooklyn North and supervised in the legal bureau. John is a proud member of the Honor Legion and the Blue Knights. John Beatty litigates across the country for seriously injured victims and has helped recover over $200 million for grieving families. Call John now for a free consultation. John Beatty, 917-797-9520. Folks, one of the most important things about this case is how law enforcement uses the media. And this is one of those cases that they really have to play the media like a violin because they need the media. They need to keep this case out there. They need the public. Anyone spots this guy. I mean, I'm sure in this area, everyone's seeing a 6'9" guy. You know, you never see anyone that's 6'9" till you're looking for someone. Then every other guy is 6'9" for some reason. You know,
Bill, I got to tell you a quick story. I had a guy that was wanted on a check fraud case, and he was 6'10" tall. And I had put a wanted card in on the guy. I had trouble getting the guy. He moved 3 or 4 times, and we went to his house the first day looking for him, and he wouldn't open the door, and we didn't have a warrant. We couldn't break the door down. Long story short, about a month after I put the wanted card in, I was out on a Saturday morning, and I stopped for a red light. We had gone to get coffee, and all the people were crossing in the crosswalk, and there was this one head that was sticking up above all of the other heads. And I was with my partner at the time, Steve Greco, and I said, "That's him." And we jumped out. We grabbed me, denied who he was. He had fake ID on him, but you couldn't miss the guy. He was 6'10" tall. This guy's 6'9". It's a very menacing individual, easy to spot. So again, we made the point. We have 500 people in the chat. How many thousands of people going to watch this? You never know. Somebody that's watching this, or they see the picture and we're talking about his height and her, she's only 5'5". You may be able to call in a tip. So again, make note of that. Make a mental note. If you see somebody that's towering over everyone else, take a second look. See if you could notice the tattoo. I believe it's on his right arm. It's a full sleeve tattoo. And again, don't approach or anything like that. Just call it into 911. Let the authorities handle it. And hopefully this guy could be brought to justice. And unfortunately, this woman, Vicky, one of the people put in the chat that Sandra, she says, "Hey, Vicky, call Joe Murray ASAP." That might be a good idea. Throw yourself on the mercy of the court. Get away from this guy. Go call it in. Have him, captured. And maybe you got a shot at the light of day someday, but you're going to do some jail time for sure.
Even maybe you're right. She could come to her senses and just book out on him, because this was a bad mistake she made. Okie dokie. Well, until the card description was released prematurely, okie dokie, that's a double-edged sword. Because do you want just the eyes of law enforcement, or you want everyone's eyes looking for that card?
I don't disagree with releasing.
I don't either. I don't either. I mean, the Alabama sheriff, who's not giving me great confidence in his abilities to catch anyone, he was a little perturbed that it was prematurely released to who? The media? As I said, the more eyes out there looking for that car, the better off. So now they get rid of it. Now they got to get another car.
Right. You're making them desperate. They're going to make a mistake. They're going to go out and try and get another car. Maybe they'll walk into a used car dealer and try and buy a car or something like that. Whatever it is, hopefully they won't hurt anybody else. That's what we really got to hope for. That no one gets hurt in this thing. But the fact that they had to switch cars now, you're making them desperate. You're shaking them up a little bit. You're putting their backs to the wall. They're going to make mistakes, and they're going to leave a trail, and they're going to be captured. So I have no problem with that. I think that should have been done immediately. If they knew about that orange Ford Edge, they should have released that immediately. I think it was released pretty quickly. He might have been perturbed about it, but again, he's in CYA mode. He's trying to cover his ass. He knows that he's got egg on his face. This is a situation where people screwed up. They allowed this correction officer to be alone with this guy, visits, telephone calls, whatever it is. So he's looking to cover his ass, but I think maybe state police or whoever it was said, no, let's get it out there. Again, Billy, great point. This is one of the times when the media is a very important tool for the, for justice to be executed on these two people that they're found and brought to justice.
Fiber Floozy Crafts, thank you for the $1.99 super chat, and you're very welcome for the coverage. We're very happy to do it. We've been on searches like this ourselves. We've gone after cop killers. We've gone after real high-level, dangerous murderers. So we know what this is like. Unfortunately, sometimes going after some of these people, we were tremendously outgunned. That's why you want the fugitive enforcement team with you, because those guys have those AR. What are those little machine pistols they carry? AR-5s or I forget.
MP5.
MP5s. I mean,
MP5 is a machine gun that holds 9mm rounds. It's kind of versatile gun. I love the MP5. I think it's a great firearm. However, AR-15, it's a much bigger round. It's got velocity. It'll go through a lot of things that a 9mm round won't go through. And with bullet resistant vests and shields and stuff like that, an AR-15 will penetrate stuff like that. So again, that's a great firearm. the MP5 is great for close contact combat, and either way, they're armed and dangerous. And Billy, one quick thing I just wanted to bring up: we did a lot of domestic violence cases recently. This guy sounds like a classic domestic violence character. Narcissistic behavior. He beat up his girlfriend. He threatened her. He went to jail for it. Kidnapping, burglary, all of that stuff. So again, you're talking about someone that is a possible, more than likely, a domestic violence abuser, and he's great at conning a woman, and that's what it seems like he did here. So we're right in the same category that we've been in over the last few weeks with the Cassie Carley case, the Naomi Ariane case. There was the woman that was killed out in Queens. I forget her name. She had a funny
Sawyer Gall.
Yeah, a Gall case. Yeah. So again, these all come. I don't know why it seems like they're coming in spurts together. This is obviously falls into the same lane as a domestic violence case. He's a domestic violence abuser. So again,
some of the bullet points that one of these papers put. Vicky White had clandestine chats with confessed killer Casey White. The county jail guard first met him at his arraignment on murder charges in 2020. So an over 2-year relationship, but he did not come to her jail until February. They escaped together on Friday. I love this. A body language expert says Vicky White's confident stride proves she had planned Friday's jailbreak. Why do body language people make the shit up to fit their profession, which is ridiculous when you think of it, right? Her gait indicated they should. Just shut up. Go on Dr. Phil with that nonsense.
Before she goes on the run with the guy. Tell me before, not after.
Yeah.
It's easy.
The way she walked, we could tell she had already made the decision to escape with him. I said, tell that to Dr. Phil with his $50,000 watch, Her waddling gait shows she was rough around the edges, but confident about their escape. How did they deduct that out of all of this stuff?
If I had to guess, if I had to put a profile on her, she's going to be a person of very low self-esteem. It sounds like to me. Again, I painted a picture of someone who's lonely, divorced, widowed, whatever the case may be, no children. This is going to be one of those cases where she was duped into it. Maybe you throw a little bit of the syndrome that occurs when a person kidnaps someone. Stockholm Syndrome, maybe there's a little bit of that. But again, you put all the components together. If I had to put a profile on it, I think she's going to be a low self-esteem, lonely person if you look at her.
Absolutely. Marlene Barone, I was just getting to that. Also, other men incarcerated spoke on how he got special treatment, extra food, etc. They knew for a while that these two were close in whatever kind of relationship. He got an extra biscuit. That's why he grew to 6'9" tall.
Yeah. He was
they alleged, Vicky and Casey, who are not related, were seeing each other while he languished in Lauderdale County Jail awaiting trial. Inmates told cops. Oh, he was languishing? No, he was sentenced to state prison. He was just being held in the jail for a little bit, and he was getting all those extra biscuits. I'm so appalled at that. Corrections has something called I don't know if it's internal affairs. They have an inspector general,
IJ,
who's supposed to investigate correctional officers, but I don't know how much. Look, she got away with a lot of things. I mean, the procedure was just obliterated. She did not follow procedure whatsoever. And how much do they go after them for things like that? Look how dangerous the situation she made by taking this 6'9", 260 pounds, some say weighs as much as 300 murderer out for a little stroll,
Yeah, he's not a lightweight. Billy, I'm noticing we got almost 600 people in the chat. So I'm going to appeal to the chat and come up with some good questions. Let's get some good questions and try and put out some good responses. You and I, from our expertise, we might be able to answer some of the questions. Didn't remember. I see Girl Friday. Why didn't they reprimand or reassign her to another jail? That's a great question. And again, I think they're going into CYA mode now. There's going to be some changes in that jail system, I'm sure. When their inspector general gets through with them, there's going to be some heads rolling for sure.
But Phil, she was somewhat of a boss. So she was a supervisor.
Yeah.
So she was like, who was supervising her? You know, I just want to make a comment to this guy, Jack Cole. I see this. Have him send me an email, police off the cuff, #1 @gmail.com. I can't really respond to this in the chat, but have him send me an email, police off the cuff, #1 @gmail.com. Thanks. We're always looking for good guests, but we do get a lot of requests, and you just have to understand it. But thank you so much for asking that. I can't read your two in the night owl. Didn't the supervisor or someone a high rank say, wait a minute, you can't do this alone? She had to know that if it's 17. Yeah, I mean,
she made the
stopped.
decision on it. Billy. I read that she made the decision on it, that she sent 2 other deputies out with another prisoner and another 2 with another prisoner. And then she made the decision on her own, as opposed to waiting for someone else to come back. That's what I read just before we went on the air. So again, like you said, she may have been a supervisor. Sounds like she made that decision.
You know something? Look, there's lax procedures in every organization. There can be lax procedures on the police department. There can be lax procedures in corrections, but procedures are written and followed because they can actually save your life. And I spoke before about how 2 detectives, actually, I think it was in the 1990s, and I don't remember their names, and I apologize, and I don't mean at all to disparage them, but they were shot to death.
From the NYPD, but I believe they were working in the Queens District Attorney's Office. They were transporting.
Right, and they on the Grand Central Parkway, they were both executed.
They did a takeout order on them, yes, and they were executed.
So those procedures, you know, we can laugh. You know, Phil and I will see police departments from other jurisdictions having perps cuffed in the front, and whenever I see that, I am just horrified by it. Because someone cuffed in the front can do lots of damage. Someone cuffed in the back can do damage. So just think about how much someone who's front cuffed can do. They can swing their arms. They can use their hands. So it's really, really sort of scary. Michelle Bollard, thank you so much for the $3.99 super chat. Very much appreciated. All you guys that are in the chat, thank you so much. If you're not subscribed to Police Off the Cuff, please go on our YouTube, hit that subscribe button, give us a thumbs up, ring that bell. I just told everybody, for some reason, they're taking us off Facebook, and not just us. They're not allowing podcasts on Facebook anymore. So if you were watching us on Facebook, you got to just get used to watching us on YouTube. Maybe it's a blessing.
Zuckerberg, that nonsense.
Yeah, maybe it's a blessing in disguise. More you guys will join us on.
Hey, Bill, you know, I'm just thinking about it. How many times have you seen in your career, maybe not to you personally or even to me personally, but guys who are rear cuffed, especially if they're skinny and lanky, tall and lanky, they get those cuffs right out from under them. Now they have cuffs with you know, in front of them. They could put that around an officer's throat and choke them out very easily, and that happens quite frequently. A lot of escapes, usually they either uncuff themselves, or they get loose from the cuffs, or they bring the cuffs from under their feet and they bring the cuffs to the front. So that's a very dangerous thing. However, like you said, our protocols were, you're transporting a prisoner, you sit in the back with him. So if he starts fidgeting around, someone's there to spot it. I mean, if you're driving and you're looking forward, you're not going to see what he's doing. He can very easily, in a snap, take control of the vehicle, and things could get really crazy.
Well, these prison inmates, they have all kinds of time to practice shit.
Sure.
They can practice getting the cuffs from the rear to the front. What that entails is long arms and to get it past your butt. And then once you get past your butt, and if you're at all flexible, you can do that pretty easily. Sometimes we have women that had such thin wrists, we couldn't even put cuffs on them because they could just escape from the handcuffs,
Yeah, somebody wrote in the chat, Rosie 4 Rivets, his cuffs have a chain to his feet. Yes, of course. He was shackled. He was with shackles on his feet as well. But if she's in on it, a couple of minutes, she's uncuffing him. She's got the key and she's letting him loose. So, yeah, that is a good point. But if there was somebody else with her that wasn't in on this escape, there would have been, there would have been a different story. I mean, they would have had to, overpower that person and then try to make the escape.
Folks, one of the things that you learn also as a police officer, and they were like totally not just unwritten rules, but, well, it's sort of unwritten, but I think it's probably written somewhere in a patrol guide. You don't date inmates. So if you lock someone up and you all of a sudden establish a relationship with them during the arrest processing, It is totally 1000% unprofessional if you would ever call that person outside. You should never call them again outside of the investigation if the district attorney wants to speak with that person's attorney. But you should have nothing to do with that person. That can totally destroy the case, and it could totally destroy you as an officer.
Absolutely, Billy. And I think it's unethical, like you said. I mean, I've heard of stories where cops arrested an individual and then wound up later dating them. Most of the time that blows up. So
most of the time it becomes a disaster, a total disaster.
Of course, of course. So somebody might be looking for a favor down the line. You know, we're dating. You know, can't you help me with this or that? So it's unethical for a reason. One of the people in the chat here, Wishbone Fishing, question: did the new car she bought have a tracker, or was there a burner phone? We talked about the burner phone earlier. We would think that that's what they might be using. They are somewhat traceable. And again, the tracker, as far as the other car, looks like they've already dumped that car in there into some other type of vehicle, some other means of transportation. I did see that right before we went on the air. So there are cars with trackers. Obviously, that would have been an easy way to find her, but I think they did dump that car. So that's the answer to that question.
To Tony, I'm sorry, Tony the Night Owl. Now I got you. I couldn't see all those letters so close together and no spaces. Yes, high school teachers can't date students, but we know it's happened. Look, I taught college for 10.5 years, and I'll just put it, many students came on to me, and I totally, in fact, one time I had to make a police report to back away from it because that's disastrous. I actually did. Here I was in my 50s. The girl was 19, and it was almost like stalking me. And I was like, oh my God. But you know, the police department, I had to cover myself, and I said, look, this is what's happening, and I just want to make sure that if any allegations are made, I'm not, you know. And I actually had to go to a duty captain to have it investigated.
Really?
And, yeah. So it's, you know, if you value your job, that type of thing can be a disaster. And look, this is even worse. Corrections. She's dating a guy potentially could be eligible for the death penalty. That's low hanging fruit. I would say there's no lower hanging fruit than that.
Absolutely. Not too bright on her part. But Billy, you made a really good point just there. You kept your professionalism. Whoever this misguided student was, 19 years old, had other things on her mind, but you handled it in the right way. It got to a point we had to make a police report. And again, in this situation, if an inmate starts to come on to an officer, I'm sure that could be logged in somewhere. And if it continues, then they can make note of it. And it's probably something that would be, up his amount of security, that he's trying to be too friendly with corrections officers. So those are things that would be noted. Again, when you make violations in prison, you lose, you might lose phone privilege, you might lose yard privilege, or, you may be in solitary confinement, whatever it may be. So there is a system in place to monitor prisoners, their activities. I think in a maximum security prison, that all of his calls were being recorded. So if she was making calls to him, they should have been monitored, and there should have been, there had to be some talk of something in there, even if it was romantic talk. Again, she's a corrections officer in another jail. So really red flag.
Phil, they are monitored. They are recorded. Everything about a prison phone call. There is no privacy, so, and the inmates know this, and she's a correction officer. She has to know that it's being monitored. And when she went to visit him in state prison, did she use a different name? Did they accept fake ID? I mean, just think that's criminal too. Sons of Italy. I heard he didn't have shackles. He actually did. Sons of Italy. He did have shackles on.
It's
clearly shown in the video. He had shackles. Sandra H. Yeah, the student wanted an A. That's if she wanted to date her 50-something plus professor to get an A, she should have just done the work. And she actually was a pretty good student, but it was. I reported it to the school. I felt so. I felt like almost nerdish, but it was just it was sort of very uncomfortable.
Billy, one of the people in the chat, Michael Roth, says, what kind of time is she looking at? Now, again, That's really hard to say, but she's looking at a substantial amount of time now at this point. Now, we don't know what other criminal activity they may be committing crimes out wherever they are. So again,
Well, Phil, the
aiming
woman
at-
in the Dannemora thing, I think she got 6 years.
yeah, I think that's a fair amount of time. Again, maybe in that state, it's going to be a harsher penalty. Of course, the fact that she's a correction officer, if he does, maybe if he harms somebody during his his capture, if he God forbid hurts a police officer or one of the marshals, then obviously the penalty is going to be more severe. But if she was to turn herself in right now, I think she'd be looking at a few years in jail and be able to salvage some of her life and see the light of day. That's a good question.
Rosie for rivets. Someone in another chat said she should have tried online dating. I guess she tried cell block dating.
Yeah.
That's not a good idea. Girl Friday, good call at Bill Cannon. Thank you, Patty Banks. It was a new Bill. I couldn't help myself. Yeah, I was a much younger Bill then, but not young enough to, it was crazy. Just put it that way. You don't know how embarrassing it was for me. I had to go to my job and report that a 19-year-old girl is basically stalking me, and just to cover myself, because the police department.
Were you retired or you were active?
No. I was on the job. You were
still active. Okay.
Yeah, I was still active.
Okay. Yeah.
And, I told my wife too. I was like, listen, there's this 19-year-old girl who sits in the front row of my class with Google eyes. And when I got out of class, she said, Professor, why don't you come to Yonkers and meet me? And I was like, what are you talking about? Yeah, why don't we start going out? I said, listen, that ain't gonna happen. I told her right out, but I stupidly, here I am confessing to all this shit. Stupidly, I'd given my class my cell phone number if they needed to reach me for ask whatever, and she took advantage of it and was calling me and I was like, and right away people pointed the finger at me. Why'd you give them the number? I said, we were told to do that by our.
You gave it to all your students, not just
yeah. It wasn't a selective.
There's an episode of Modern Family with a very similar story where Phil, who plays the real estate agent, he goes and teaches a class, and there's a girl sitting in the front row with Google eyes, and she winds up she tries.
Well, I knew she came up to me in the hall, and she just walked up. She goes, Professor Cannon, she goes, you're so cool. And I was like, oh no, because I was a homicide sergeant and everything. She was like, yo, you were just so cool.
You were too cool for school, Bill.
I was way too cool for school, I guess. Yeah. So I had to pull it back, stop being so cool, Yeah. But it ended happily ever after. No one got in trouble so, Phil, we're at like an hour and 12 minutes, 702 people in the chat. There's a lot of interest in this case. I guess we have to, cover it again. I know Duty Ron's been covered. I think Duty Ron did about 3 or 4 shows on this. It's very interesting. One of the things that I just want to point out is that, as I said early on, the Fugitive Enforcement Division is fantastic. They do this for a living. They go after these really, really dangerous guys, and they don't play. And so if I was this guy, Mr. Casey White, I would be extremely afraid of these guys, because they have believe me, they're a lot more talented at their job than he is at his, since he's the one in prison facing the death penalty, So he should probably surrender, but knowing the mentality of this guy, he probably will not. And this is not going to end. It's not going to end nicely. It's going to end tragically, unfortunately. And most of these cases do. If they can catch them alive, they will. But you got to understand, fugitive enforcement forces know the mentality of these people. And then if they got to pull the trigger first, they will do it, So.
Billy, Gerard in the chat says the woman from Dannemora was allowed to keep her pension. I think that was the woman he's referencing that aided the escape of those 2 inmates. I don't know. She was still active when she committed this crime. They probably could terminate her before her actual retirement takes effect. That's really going to be a side note. Let's get them in custody. Let's apprehend both of them.
It's funny. It's funny that people in the chat are worried about this lady's pension. They used to have a thing on the police department where you could retire, but then they wouldn't finalize you for, I don't know, was it 30 or 60 days? But then a lot of chiefs started getting into trouble, and they let them get their pension immediately. And I guess they had to let everyone do it after that. They just, as soon as they got wind that they may be in trouble, they put their papers in, and they just. But remember, they used to take 60 days to get finalized.
Yeah. To get out the door, there was a.
I mean, to get out the door, not to finalize, but
yeah. The what do you call it? They do what we call a round robin on you. They check and make sure that there's not any pending, investigations. If you're not such a good police officer in the NYPD, that's how they did it. And then you get what's called a good guy letter. They put it in your folder, and it says that you retired with the authority to police commissioner, meaning you retired in good standings, and that's how you're able to use it as a for another job on your resume or whatever, or for firearms license, whatever it may be. So. Again, a lot of good questions in the chat. Hey, a lot of people in the chat.
Guys, thank you so much for watching today. I think this is an interesting case. It's a little different than our usual cases, but it's funny how with police work that you can use all your skills for any type of case, because once you know how to investigate things, you just change the, you just change the investigative techniques you use. And for this, it's searching. It's searching for fugitives, and we do that all the time. So that comes underneath. And then when we can enlist great people like the fugitive enforcement team, this guy doesn't have a prayer. Believe me, they will catch them. And Phil, last words.
Last words. I'm sure that the investigation is going to be looking into friends, family members, like you said earlier in the show, Billy, with both him and her, both the correction officer and the prisoner. They're going to want to go to a safe place. They're going to try and get away, stand a limb. The minute that this case breaks, if something happens, Bill and I will try and get on the air with it and gather some details and be able to report it to you guys. I really was impressed with the amount of people we had in the chat today. I think there were some great questions.
Bill, you know what it was? They missed me. That was,
of course.
Because they were seeing this picture too often. They were seeing all these Isla Morada photos. They were like,
they were getting jealous that you were having a good time, Bill.
When's Cannon coming back? We like the dirty, gritty crime stuff. What the hell is he showing us vacation photos for? But so guys, again, thank you so much for listening. And if you're not subscribed, subscribe to us on YouTube. And as I said, Facebook isn't going to carry our podcast anymore, or podcast period anymore. So you have to join us on YouTube. So, Billy, that's it.
Stay safe, everybody, and let's hope that these two are captured without incident. Let's hope that everyone is safe, including them. Law enforcement officers, stay safe, brothers and sisters. Get these guys without incident.
Be safe, everyone. Good night.
One episode just ain't enough.